Hey guys, your friendly neighborhood natty here. My name is Matthew, and today's video is going to be about getting my bachelor's degree 10 years later. Now this video was inspired by the curiosity of my professors and academic advisors. They were really interested in what it would be like for somebody to have started college, at the right time, 18, and then left and then came back, in my case, 10 years later. They were just wondering, the differences between the two, because obviously my brain's very different from 18 to 28. And then also they wanted to know if I would go to graduate school as well. So to kind of knock those out right away, I would say that yes, my brain is very different from 18 to 28. I think, in my case, when you're young, you really are just kind of coasting by, and you don't really take the assignment seriously. Anytime I had a question about the class that I needed, to graduate, I'd always ask the professor right away. I would send an email right away, just to make sure that I knew I was on top of things. I knew when assignments were due. I looked at the syllabus. I made sure which assignments had the most weight. That means they have the most effect on your grade. Which assignments had the least weight. So I still tried my best, but I mean, it's not a big deal if you, didn't do a good job on them. Extra credit, stuff like that. I think that there's more of a motivation driving force, I think when you're young, you don't really believe in the consequences of like failing school and not taking things seriously. But when you're old, I've lived it already, right? So I've worked 5-10 different jobs. They all suck. Everything without a degree, they all suck. And so for the opportunity or the idea of hey, you could get a little bit better if you did your homework, then I think having that real life experience kind of helped push me to be like, yeah, I'm not screwing this up. It's like I've seen everything already. Every job that I've worked at, never PTO, never paid holidays, nothing, never. It's just always overwork, underpay. And so the idea that if you get this degree, it might be different, then I think that's kind of like a real motivating force, And again, it's not real when you're a kid because you don't, what did I work at when I was a kid? McDonald's? That's it. You don't take it seriously. So I think that was kind of like a good benefit for me. And then also working from the different job fields, I also became really good at sort of time management, which is really just stress management. So I don't know if that's an innate skill I had or if I just kind of developed that after working different jobs of okay, well, this is what the responsibilities are. People are complaining. It's because they don't do this. And then I can, I kind of learn from that, do it myself. And as far as the graduate school, I would have to say that I really wouldn't do it if you're not passionate about the subject, because graduate school is a lot harder than undergrad school. Because with undergrad, you have a lot of resources to help you. You can, take time, talk to your professors, send emails, stuff like that, ask any question. And I'm not saying the graduate professors wouldn't answer you, they would too, but it's you got academic advisors, you got so many people that will make sure you're on the path to succeed. In graduate school, there's nothing like that. You're literally on your own. And instead of being introduced to different concepts with undergrad, you're really focusing on one concept intensely, And so, I mean, if you're gonna do graduate school, I'd say the passion helps. If you don't have a passion for it, I mean, it's up to you. I'm not your Asian dad, but it may or not be worth it, depending on what you think about, how you think about it. So I also want to talk about some factors that may come into play for you if you think you should or should not go to college. So to start off as a basis, I think we'll kind of go with my story again. Very simple. I went to college on time, right after senior year, 18. And then I was in there for 3.5 years, pretty close to finishing. I only needed 12 credits left and then one class. Well, one of two classes, they both would satisfy the requirement. And, I could have done it, but my parents got divorced. Mom left my dad. And so that was me, younger brother, and then youngest brother about to get into college. So, that'd be very difficult to do to support that on one income. So I just kind of was like, well, let me drop out. Big deal. Let me drop out. Let me work more than 40 hours, and let's get everybody done, and then maybe I'll go back and get it. So Papa Natty was okay with that, and that's what I did. I worked different jobs, sometimes 84 hours a week. That was the longest, I think. But years later, my youngest brother, he lives in Minneapolis. Not youngest, younger brother lives in Minneapolis now, doing just fine. And then my youngest brother is going to stay at home with us now. He's got one more semester, and he's going to graduate with a master's in business administration. And so, with not that much pressure going on, my dad was kind of like, oh, well, everything's done here. Your brothers are good. You got a house, you got a car. Do you want to go back to college? And it was kind of like, not really? Not really? Like, is that what people want? They want a house and a car, and if I already got it, then why do I need it? But, I got some kind of like a fatigue from work, different security contracts, hard labor. I tend to just drift from one job to the other. And I was kind of getting like sick of the same stuff, So everything without a degree, it's always the same. No PTO, no sick days, no paid holidays, nothing. You're just work to live, I guess, is what it is. And so the prospect that it might be better if you get your degree, especially given how pathetically close it was. Again, 12 credits, or no, 8 credits, right? 8 credits and one of the 2 required classes. It just made sense to be like, just go do it. just go do it, Matthew, So that's what I did. I did that, and I think in one of my old videos, I tried SDSU, and everything was fine. And I'm not saying it's a bad school, but they're really not forthcoming with information. I made it crystal clear about what credits would transfer, and they like to beat around the bush a little too much and not tell me a damn thing and pay a non-refundable $10 chicken dinner fee. I'm kidding. I'm talking about the registration fee, non-refundable. And, not until I sit there in the orientation, then they want to talk about, oh, here's your first year, here's your second year, here's your third year. No. You don't get to do that. No. Now, let's not pile on the hate for SDSU, because I think every college does that, or at least a lot of them do. Because I do remember sophomore or junior year in college, there was a new guy. He was a transfer, but he ended up walking out. And I'm guessing it was because the U of M did exactly to him what SDSU did to me, where they're like, well, what credits transfer? I don't know. I guess you got to register. They're like, okay, I'm registered. Well, now what? Well, I guess you got to show up at orientation. And they probably screwed him the way that I got screwed. So again, let's not hold some harsh judgment here. I'm guessing a lot of colleges do that, especially if you think about it, how predatory that is, because, again, these are kids, right? So if a kid transfers, like they're 18, 19, 20, they're just a baby, right? They don't know anything. So then when they go to transfer and they go, okay, let's just say 23, or 21, right? So they got 3 years of college. They only need 1 left. Then they transfer and they go, oh, well, these credits transfer, these don't, but here's your first year, second year, third year. Like, that might actually work on them. They might actually make that decision, So that's garbage. Now, no one's being defended here. Like I said, University of Minnesota and SDSU get the hammer for that one. But I'm guessing probably a lot of colleges do that. I think they all engage in some form of predatory behavior like that. And, if you're not sure, if you want to transfer, then I would just say double check with them. If they're going to play games with you, ghost them. Screw them, okay? Go somewhere else. And then if you get no answer from anybody, just go back to your original college, okay? That's really the best choice here, because that's what I had to do. If SDSU actually transferred my credits, I just do it here, but they didn't, and they really held out the information on me for that. So in the end, I just ended up going to U of M, and I guess I got lucky too, because the whole COVID thing made a lot of classes online. So you could do a lot of them online, and the classes that I needed, they were not originally online. They had to be in person, so I would have had to uproot my life, live all the way up in Minneapolis, still pay the mortgage down here in South Dakota, really kill my bank account. But yeah, I guess in an odd way, thanks COVID, but I could just take the classes online. So that's what I did. I had to email them, obviously 10 years have passed, over 10 years, obviously completely different academic advisors under me, or that watch me, I guess. And the two classes, they really came down to one that was internship and the other one was not internship. So the non-internship would be the most easiest, but the problem was that I had to be up there in Minneapolis. It was, so half of it was online, but the other half you had to be there. So that would be an incredibly expensive cost. Not to mention the fact that I still need 4 more credits, so I'd have to take a different class along with that. The other class, which is the one I ended up doing, it was mostly online. There was some kind of online attendance through Zoom that you had to watch the material, and they did have some physical meetings that, my professor tried to get me to go, but again, I'm not gonna drive 4 hours just to have some meeting. That's, no offense, that's ridiculous and unnecessary. So we did agree on other things. She made that work, and I appreciate that. But it was mostly online, 4 credits. Now I still needed 4 more credits because I was at 112. You need 120 to graduate, and I could have taken another class, but I found out that the class that I was already taking, it's credit variable. That means that for every 45 hours of an internship, you get 1 credit. So, obviously it's going to be 180 hours because the class is 4 credits. So that's 180 hours you have to do anyways. And then, for me, it's like, okay, well, if I can just do 4 more credits, it would be another 180. So it's 360 hours of an internship. And in that field too, like if you had previous volunteer experience, which I did when I was, a young kid, half of those hours do apply. So, you can still knock out some of those. I think it was 52 I had. Well, I did I think it was 52 hours. So only 27 and a half I could apply to the 360 limit. Knocked it down a little bit, not that bad, but I ended up going with that. I think that was kind of the best choice for me, just because, I can stay here in South Dakota, pay my mortgage, work on my degree at the same time. And I was still working too. I was working my normal job, and then I was doing the internship as well, the school as well. So that is incredibly convenient, rather than lose my job and go up to Minneapolis for a certain time. And I did complete that, I think January is when I was done. So the class was over in December, yes, that's true, or last winter, it was over. But, I got a K grade because if anybody was still working on the internship, then we'll just keep working on it and keep contact with the professor. And then when you're done, you let them know you're done, turn in the hours, everything's good. So I did complete that in January, and that is where I got this boy, University of Minnesota. I'm so surprised it doesn't say your major on there. I had to look it up online. Did they not tell you your major of study? And they don't. I think they do if it's graduate school degree, but they don't when it's undergrad. So that's a little disappointing. Now the next question that comes up usually is going to be, should I have gone to college? And I would say, if I could go back in time, probably not. Probably not, just because I didn't take it too seriously as I should have, and I was really just running away from overbearing parental expectations, Asian family, doctor and lawyer. Well, which one do you want? That's all you get, one or two. And you're pretty dang talented if you can do it. That's pretty tough. But I just completely failed those possibilities. Law and med school, that's just that's a special kind of person, I tell you. Yeah, but so, trying to live up to expectations that are way beyond my capabilities, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure every parent wants their kid to be the doctor or the lawyer, but again, that is a 1 in a million type of a thing. And obviously that can be very damaging to a child if they're expected to be something that they can't possibly ever be. But regardless, outside of those things, as I said, I don't fall into the typical educational route that most people do, Big Brother Natty is a great example. He wanted to work on cars ever since he was a kid, and that's never changed. And he's been an auto mechanic for over 10 years. So, that's great, that's fine, Some people know exactly what they want to do. But other people, I don't think that we fall into that kind of category, just who we are personality-wise. I think for me, if you ask me, is my passion social services? Not really. Not really. I think my personality fits because I'm really good at organizing and wanting to help people. But I think my real passion really is martial arts. And once again, that is not a typical field of study. Even if you said, well, what about military science? Well, yeah, but I think what ends up is that they'll push you towards being a history teacher, for World War I, II, Vietnam or Korea War. So it's like, I mean, yeah, but not really. And plus what I'm thinking more of is teaching. I actually want to teach kickboxing to younger students. That's what I want to do, and again, I guess the field of study there would be marketing and advertising. That'd be the most appropriate thing. But, I'm just wanting to tell the parents out there, maybe just don't be so overbearing on your kids. Don't expect, an insane amount of things, which is not possible for them. Like I said, you do end up damaging them if you do that. And just be open, if they tell you, I don't know what I want to do, that doesn't mean anything's wrong with your kid, okay? They just don't fall into the stereotypical route of where people do. Maybe they have a different way, a different route, a different destiny, and it's a little aggravating not to know what that is. That's true. Just imagine what it's like for your kid. But, if you trust them, work with them, they're going to turn out okay. So next I kind of want to go through habits or attributes that you have or you're interested in doing that may help aid you on your post-secondary education journey. So, if you think, should you go? If you have these attributes, then they may be a good sign that you should. So, the first one is going to be, well, this is obvious, if you know what you're going to do. Again, if it's a passion thing, like Big Brother Natty wanted to work on cars, or you want to work in science, technology, engineering, and math, then you can just go right away. It's not a problem, If you you like it, then that's really going to help drive you. That's just one factor, though. Now, the second one I would say is if you don't plan to drink alcohol or do drugs, which includes nicotine, of course. These are things that they're only going to inhibit you. They're also class 1 carcinogens. I think alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen. So, you're just killing brain cells for no reason when you should probably use it to finish school. You're kind of messing up your brain balance, your dopamine receptors. You're just messing things up for no reason. I understand kids do that, and I don't know why you do that. But again, you're taking in guaranteed thousands upon $10,000 of debt. I mean, why do you want to reduce or fail your chances of an investment like that? That just makes no sense to me. Okay. Now the third one I have is good time and stress management. So I learned this through working in the working field when I dropped out of college. Not really too much to say about that. It's a very holistic approach. That's going to be a whole separate video if you want me to talk about that. But basically, if you can identify kind of the stressful situations of your job, of your work, of school as well, and you break it down into smaller pieces, that's usually going to be the one thing that kind of helps you succeed, because it's easy to say this is due on this day and then I'm going to work on it a week before it's due. No, that is absolutely terrible idea, terrible advice. No matter how big the project is, you should always kind of just break it down and be like, okay, what is the stupidest, easiest, simplest thing I can do, and do it right now. And then, as you break the big project into smaller and smaller pieces, you can complete them over time, so that when it's due, it's almost pathetically easy. So that would, that'd really be the best thing to do. And then the last thing too is just having good study habits. So I will say that if you ever had a history from elementary to high school and you felt that the grade was too easy and teachers and friends told you that, or they said, oh, you're pretty smart, you need to make sure you have good study habits. Here in the West, let's talk about the brain. So your brain, my brain, everybody's brain, it needs to be challenged for growth. It's just like muscle, right? The muscle, it doesn't grow unless you put some stress on there, challenge it. Your brain's the same way. Okay, so it's possible that in elementary school, maybe they were like, wow, you're a special kid. You already figured this all out in first grade, third grade, fourth grade. But that's not a good thing to teach, because by the time, well, let me put it this way. So first grade to 12th grade, right? They're teaching you what you need to know appropriate to that level. It's possible that some people, I actually was one myself, we can be past that grade's challenge. So you can go to first, second, third, and then fourth is like, this is too easy, too easy, too easy, too easy. It's possible, but that's not a good thing, because as your teachers and parents and friends mistake that as like you're gifted, it's just not appropriately challenging to your brain, so you won't pay attention to it. But what happens is that once you go to the appropriate level, you may be skipped because you were already past fourth, fifth, and sixth, but then you didn't learn the habits for 7 and 8, right? And then when you get to 9 and 10, you actually fall behind. That's a very common story, at least what I hear here in the West, is that people mistake gifted kids as like they're talented, when really they could become special needs if they get left behind for the educational output that's not appropriate to their brain level. So I think that's still being skipped today, and it's pretty unfortunate, because it kind of puts blame on people, like, oh, especially the student themselves. Your kid might be the one that says, oh, well, I figured this all out when I was in 5th grade. Now I'm lost in 7th grade. I must be an idiot. And that doesn't help them in any way too, and then you also, unconsciously, you don't help it either when you say, well, you knew this in 5th grade. Why aren't you doing this in 7th grade? Again, the content wasn't appropriately challenging to their brain, so they're left behind. You got to catch them up. So the good study habits is, all I'll say is that, if you never had a history of that, or nobody said, wow, you were really smart in elementary, middle, or high, then you're probably okay. But if you ever heard that, then you need to be very careful, possibly go back, and make sure what habits they were teaching back then, to pick those up so you don't miss them. And then that will obviously severely impact your ability for high school and post-secondary education as well. Next, I want to talk about some habits or attributes where I wouldn't say don't go to college, but I would say have some serious meditative consideration if you should go. And so the first one is going to be, if people say you'll figure it out in college. That's really bad advice. I fell for that. You might be able to get away with 1 or 2 years in college to where you can work on your generals, but that's not a very good management of stress, because the general classes are not as hard as your core classes, whatever your degree is in. So you kind of want to even them out, half and half, have half of the generals, or if you know that some of your core classes are going to be difficult, maybe take 2 or 3, work with them a little bit, and then maybe just a little bit more on the easy classes. Again, you want to even out that stress. You don't want 1 and 2 years of gliding by, and then 3 to 4 is super hard. That is not a very good management of stress, and it's just a common stigma thing that people do. People did it in my town. My town was 4,500 people, and of course they shame you and like, is your kid in college? And then they, the moms talk to each other, and they think their kid is better than another kid because they went to college or something like that. So that would not be a good reason. If your reason is like, well, I don't know, people told me I should go. I mean, you can go if you want, but I'm just saying that could be an indication that you should maybe rethink it. Now, the second reason is going to be running away from childhood trauma, parental over expectation, something that I'm familiar with. Maybe you're familiar with that as well. It was definitely for me just running away from, all the expectations my parents had. If I could be out of my dad's house, I wouldn't have to be under his rules. I wouldn't have to do what he tells me. I wouldn't have to deal with, being a failure, not being good enough, stuff like that. So that's clearly not a good reason to go to college, because it was just an escape. And of course, you're putting yourself in a situation where you owe tens of thousands of dollars of debt. And why? Because I'm running away from my dad? Well, not a particularly good reason. So again, if that's a present reason for you to leave, then that might not be a reason to go to college. Number 3 is really just reiterating the first part. Drink alcohol and drugs. Drink drugs. No, if you plan to drink alcohol and do drugs, I would say you probably shouldn't go. Just because, again, those are incredibly wasteful, garbage behaviors. They don't teach you anything. They ruin your life, that's for sure. I tell you what, though, if that's what you want to do, I think you should probably just, waste your years outside of college, because again, you are guaranteeing tens of thousands of dollars. So why increase your chance to fail by doing it in college? You want to do dumb stuff, at least do it outside of college. That way you don't have the, overbearing looming of like, well, I done screwed up my life, because, that does happen. And then the last reason is going to be, if you should consider not going to college, if you have no idea what you want to do. Now, there's one exception to that, and that's, I've never seen this, but I heard it a lot with my clients. Your parents are going to kick you out if you don't go to college. Okay, first of all, if you're even thinking of like, oh yeah, I could be homeless for a little bit, no, you can't, okay? That is the absolute worst thing possible. If you wanted to do that, I'm not going to give you a guide for that. Screw that. Don't be homeless. Okay. No. No. Don't do it. Okay. Now, of course, at this point, it's like, well, I don't want to guarantee $10,000 of debt either. Well, okay, you can just choose safe jobs. Okay, safe jobs. So instead, you can be an electrician. Why is that a safe job? Because that's easy 6 figures and probably more. Why? Because technology. Is technology going to get worse? Is it going to get worse? No, it's not. It's going to get better and better and better. And, the technology people can work on that, but what do they need? They need electricity. They need electricity. Their gadgets don't work without electricity. So, you're choosing a field where you are being supplemented by, a really safe brand of technology, and you'll never be out of a job because, again, technology doesn't seem to go backwards. It seems to go forward. So, if you don't know what you want to do, just go into electrician. Once again, easy 6 figures. A lot of people don't know that. Electricians are rich. They hella rich, okay? Otherwise, you can also look at HVAC. HVAC is a great one too, ventilation, cooling, AC, stuff like that, because, when these companies create big scientific companies, they want nice buildings. Nice buildings got to have nice AC, right? It's got to have nice heating, right? So all these things, again, you're piggybacking off of a very successful field of technology. So, if you don't know what you want to do, yes, don't go to college. But if your parents are threatening you, kicking you out, then okay, fine, go to college. But I'd say choose those 2 incredibly useful, safe, safe skill sets. They're really just for life. It's a really good skill to have, And even 10 years later, you find out, actually, I want to be a nurse. Okay, well, 10 years later, you're sitting on $1 million. Go be a nurse then. Now, in the circumstance where your parents are going to be like, okay, you don't have to go to college, you can just stay and work, you should be noble about it, okay? You should give a peace offering to your parents. You say, listen, I don't know what I want to do. I don't want to guarantee tens of thousands of dollars of debt, but let me prove it to you that I'm not just going to be an idiot and drink alcohol, right? Say, okay, I'm going to pay half the bills, right? You tell your parents, I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't know what I want to do for college, so I don't want to go. So what you can do is let me pay half the bills. Let me not drink alcohol or do drugs, right? That is the lowest reasonable peace offering you can offer your parents, assuming they don't kick you out. If they kick you out, you got to be an electrician. If they don't kick you out, you need to make a reasonable peace offering to them so they know that you're not just being a dumbass, okay? You're not just being a damn dumbass and ruining your life, okay? That you are working, you're paying half the bills, you're not drinking, and you're not doing drugs. That's the lowest reasonable peace offering you can offer your parents. Obviously, you're only alive because of them, so that's the least you can do for them. And then, like I said, if you figure out what you want to do 5 to 10 years later, great. You haven't lowered your chances, you haven't killed your brain cells drinking alcohol. Great, now you know what you want to do, now you can go do it. And now the debt that you're going to incur is at least, acceptable rather than like these insanely high interest variable loan rates. Next, I want to talk about kind of the most valuable input you can have from people close to you. And I kind of rank them by how important that they are. So when it comes to, your destiny, you're forging your own destiny with college and work and things like that, the first consideration is you. So whether you think this is what you want to do, but your family says, I think you shouldn't, or your friends say you shouldn't, or I say you shouldn't, you're the number one. So if you think you're sure and you know better, you have the ultimate decision, the ultimate choice, and so you decide. If you say, I'm not 100% sure, but I think I can do it, and your parents say, no, you should be 100% sure, you're right at the end of the day. If you want to go, you can go. Okay? Now, second one is your family. Your family's opinion matters the second because they're your family. Okay? Their input is going to be pretty important to whatever it is you pursue in life, whatever you decide for. Your parents' input is the second most important. Yours is only first because, well, it's your life. It's your life, you're an adult, you can make your choices, but it never hurts to have different opinions, secondary considerations for you to ensure what it is that you're planning on. Now, the third is your friends, but I say that with a huge caveat because your friends should not be trusted more than your family, and the reason why is because humans are, what is it? Humans are garbage. Humans are garbage. Okay, they, what is it? It's called. I'm pretty sure I wrote it down. It's Schadenfreude. It's Schadenfreude, and it's crabs in a bucket mentality. So what I mean by that is Schadenfreude is a German word, and it means that people enjoy seeing other people suffer. They may act like they don't, they may pretend like they don't, but they do, unless you're Jesus. But if you're not Jesus, then you like seeing other people suffer. It makes you feel good about yourself, okay? Now, we would expect for family that they don't do that. They might do that to a degree, but they're still your family. But friends don't have that connection with you, okay? So they're really going to enjoy seeing you suffer and possibly even lead you into suffering. And then the crabs in a bucket mentality, pretty much what it sounds like. If you've ever seen it, when the crabs are in a bucket, they can't get out, right? But if one of them is like doing their push-ups, they're doing their push-ups and they could almost get out, the other crabs will pull them back in, okay? You got to be careful with friends, okay? I'll tell you what, I'm 34 years old. If I could trust people, friends that aren't blood related, maybe three, you guys, okay? I'm 34 years old. Only 3 of them I could trust with my life. Nobody else I could trust with my life. Now, if you think you found those 3 right now, okay, well, you were damn lucky then. But I'm gonna say no. I think that's pretty unlikely. Okay. Another thing too is that you need to watch out for people that are psychopath and sociopath. Now, there is differences between the two, but I'm not smart enough. I just treat them the same. But with sociopaths, what they do is it's a game to them how much they can use somebody. So if they can use you a lot for like your money or something, or getting free rides from you out of your car, they love that. It's like a game to them, okay? And what's even worse is that A, they're really charming, so that sucks. B, they're really good actors. They can act very well to make you pity them and be like you're the only thing that can help them, a type of a thing. And they also seek out people that nobody likes. So I didn't have any friends growing up because nobody likes me. Nobody likes one true natty, okay? And so when somebody's actually nice to me, see that the sociopath loves that because it's like, oh great, I've got the person literally in the palm of their hand. They got that, right? They don't like other people that are kind of like well-adjusted, people that had lots of friends, because there's not much control there, because you have other friends. So if they cannot like isolate you, like don't they do that in relationships? What is it? Well, yeah, they isolate you. They isolate you from your social network. But if you're unfortunate like me, you never had a social network, we're kind of like easy prey for them, right? So really, again, as I said, watching out for your friends who may very well be psychopath or sociopath, you don't know, is that they're going to be charming. They're going to be really good actors or actresses, right? And then they will seek out people that are, I mean, I'm not a loner, just nobody likes me. But they'll seek out people that nobody likes, you know, because they can get the most loyalty from them. So here's an example, right? Well, an acquaintance of mine, he reached out and became super friendly. And once again, nobody likes one true natty, so like, you know, I ain't got no friends, right? And so it was kind of a big deal, like, oh geez, you know, nobody's nice to me before, and so yeah, we became friends, right? But then as time goes on, you know, he's always needing money. I think, what was the major one? I think the major one was he got in a fight with his friend. He got in a fight with his friend, who's actually, they've been friends longer than he's been friends with me, but whatever. He got in a fight with his friend, and because they were drunk. That's why you don't drink alcohol. Anyways, they got into a fight, and then they wanted to break their lease. Now, I don't know much about renting, because I always just, I don't know. Dad always bought a house, and then mortgage, and then mortgage. So I don't know about that. But anyways, I guess there's something called a lease, and that means that you can't break it, which means you can't move out, right? Something like that. And so they got into a fight because, you know, they're stupid and they drank alcohol. And so they wanted to break their lease. And I guess you have to pay a large fine for it. And he didn't have it. And he was like, oh, I don't have the money for a lease. I don't have it. And I was like, okay, I guess I could give you the money. So I did. And then I think he had moved on to a different place. And then he was like, oh, I don't have money to pay this rent. And I was like, okay, I'll just give you the money again. And then over time there was other things like, oh, I don't have money for a vape, I don't have money for groceries, I don't have money for gas. And you know, it just kept going on. And then there was a time where he could have gone to jail because he was speeding, I think, or something like that. And you know, he has something on his license, so if you get in trouble again or something, I don't know. One true natty doesn't really get in trouble. But yeah, he was like, it's $400 for the jail. If I don't, I'll go to jail, you know. And then again, I just get a little suspicious, you know. I'm like, okay, well, so jail, right? This is kind of a big thing. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. So what about your girlfriend? You know, his girlfriend adores him a lot more than he adores her. Like, she's gonna let you go to jail? And he's like, she won't care. Like, what? Are you sure? She likes you more than you like her. I don't think she'd let you go to jail. Okay, what about your older brother? Oh, he's not going to do anything. Really? Your older brother's not going to do anything? What about your two younger brothers? I mean, younger, not like little kids, but younger-ish, you know, because he's like 24. Like, oh, they're not going to do anything. Uh-huh. And your mama? He's like, oh, my mama's not going to do anything. Oh, okay. So it's all up to me, right? All up to one true natty. I got to save him from jail, right? I did. I paid the damn fine. But, you know, it's just stuff like that, you know. And listen, it sounds silly, but the way that they've learned to talk to people, there's an actual art on that. I think it's in the Shoninki, which is one of 3 books of ninjutsu. There's a way that you manipulate people by talking to them. I feel like he's like a master of that, or at least he's read it or something. He really knows how to do it. It sounds silly when I say it to you, but when you see it in real life, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, they really know how to use words and feelings to manipulate you, to get you to let go of your money, apparently, you know. I think another one I heard was Amber Heard. So if you've seen that trial, like, I mean, I know the trial's different, but let's say like before the trial, people say that she's kind of like that too, a sociopath, psychopath, which means, again, they're charming, they're good actors, you know, and they know how to make it feel like it's up to you. And if it's not for you, their life is destroyed, type of a thing, you know, or they need you to save them. That's what they do, you know. So very dangerous people, you know. And let me tell you what kind of a lesson this is. That's a $40,000 lesson, you guys. He's supposed to pay me $40,000, I heard, supposedly. Let me tell you another manipulation thing too. So he needed it ended up being $6,000, but he needed money for what was it? It was well, that was just his total debt. It was like $6,700, and you know, at the point that he keeps borrowing money for all these things, there's a point where I had to eat less food. I had to like not eat, you know, I had to not eat food. That's kind of how I started the fasting. You know, the 13-hour fast was because he kept having problems. He kept having problems and needed thousands of dollars. So I was like, oh, well, I mean, like, fasting's good for you and I'm running out of money, so I might as well do it. So, you know, I did that, right? Obviously, that's a pretty serious thing to do for a friend, is to starve yourself, you know? But here's my point. So later on, you know, so he's had like $6,700 personal debt, so like $40,000 total. Anyways, one day I was like, oh, I need $50. Can you lend me that? I'm testing him, you know, I want to test him a little bit. And he's like, no, can't do it. Sorry. just dead ass, like, no, sorry. That's it, you know. But I'm telling you, you know, anytime he needs money from me, it's got to be a big sob story. You know, my life is going to be gone, ruined, destroyed if you don't help me. You know, this type of thing. And I asked for $50, which I don't think that's a lot of money. You know, it'd be embarrassing if I said 20, he couldn't do that. But I felt like 50 was a good choice. I went with that. And no, he couldn't do it. You know, it was the most deadpan, just, nope, can't do it. Sorry, that's it. You know? And then another thing too is he tried to convince me that he didn't go to the bars and drink alcohol. Well, he does actually a lot, but let me just say, he tried to convince me he didn't do that, right? And so he's like, yeah, I haven't been to the bars in forever. I'm like, okay, fine. So then I go and use my ninjutsu, you know, the getting information from other people, and I'm able to find out, no, actually he does go to the bar. He goes to the bar, he gets drunk every weekend, you know. And I don't know if you guys have been to a bar, but they overcharge you like insanely so. Like if you buy the alcohol yourself, it's almost like, well, why are you so stupid? Why are you so stupid? And you're overpaying for like a little bit, you know what I mean? So that's where all his money goes, right? He's still going there. And he tried to convince me that he didn't go, but then he changed the story. He's like, well, no, it was just for a while. Well, I didn't ask you for a while. You said, you know, you didn't go. That's what you made it sound like. You know, you lied to me. You know, you'd still go every day. He still goes every weekend. You know what I mean? Like, oh my goodness. So you really got to watch out for people like that. And like I said, for us people that are not by choice, but we're loners because nobody likes us, we are kind of like the ideal victim. You know, we are like the number one choice for these kinds of people. And of course that hurts me too. You know why it hurts me? Because so when if your story's true, I don't know what is a lie or a truth anymore, but based on what you're telling me, you know what that means? It means when you really need help, I'm willing to starve myself and fast. And it means that when I ask you for barely any help for $50, you didn't care. You didn't care. Also just now too, like he hasn't paid a penny towards his debt to me at all. So it's like, obviously alcohol is more important than me, right? So it kind of puts that into perspective for you. Yeah, sorry. I just want you guys to be safe, okay? Please just stay away from people like that, you know, sociopaths, psychopaths. I don't know the best way to identify them. I think one thing is like narcissism. I think they do have an inability to be humble, but that's not guaranteed, because he was like somewhat humble, but I don't know if it was an act to like get me to you know, to trust him, type of a thing. So I definitely would encourage looking up, identifying psychopaths, sociopaths as much as possible, and don't afford yourself a $40,000 expensive lesson. Now, even though I put my opinion as absolute dead last, it is I do have an opinion that's better than everything, including you, and that's actually drugs and alcohol. So if your family says a little bit of alcohol is okay, they're wrong and I'm right. It should be 0. If you think there's a little bit of alcohol is all right, you're still wrong and I'm right. You should be 0. Okay? Now I know you'd be like, well, you're not my Asian dad. I don't care. Yeah, that's fine. You don't have to care. Okay? But I will give you this. I'll give you 2 warnings. Okay? The first warning is that if you do stupid behavior like that, you may set yourself back 5 to 10 years. Okay, you think not a big deal. Fine. That's on the if you're lucky. If you're unlucky, your whole life is changed, okay? Because you may have a child, you may become pregnant or you impregnate a girl. Now, I'm not saying the kid is the bad. I like kids. What I'm saying is that when you have kids, your dreams and hopes are gone. You understand? You have to do everything you can for that child, right? Because most people, they're supposed to have kids when they are sober, when they're ready for it, when they have everything set up for it, rather than just being an accident. Nobody wants to hear they're an accident, okay? Like, that's terrible, right? And you open yourself up to possibilities like that by being persistent on stupid behavior. Like I said, if you're lucky, you just set back your life dreams 5 to 10 years. If you're unlucky, your life dreams are over because you got to raise a kid now. Yeah, these days you can't kill babies now. I know you could back then. You can't do it anymore. Okay? So you really got to think wisely. Okay? What is alcohol doing for you? Just think about it. You can look it up. What does it do for you? It makes you not interesting? Who says so? Why do you take their external validation? What about you? What about what you think? You think you're boring or not? And I understand people are social creatures and they want to be friends and stuff like that. But again, you got to ask yourself, okay, so, the alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen. It's a cancer-causing agent, right? I mean, do you want that? Let me ask you, do you want kids? If you want kids, don't you want to be around for the kids? Do you want to give off behaviors, actions that are good for the kid? You know what I'm saying? So, look, I understand some people, they try to explain it to me. I still don't understand it. I hear they say, they're here for a good time, not a long time. Okay, but a good time means hedonism, right? So that's all that that's all you exist for. It's just pleasure. That's it. Hedonism. Listen, if you just live for that, depending on, your brain, you have the ability to maximize, in regards to dopamine, you can maximize that, but that doesn't mean you should. Do you know what I mean? Think about food and sex. Obviously, that's the highest dopamine levels. You maximize on that is just what? Gluttony and sex all the time? Masturbation, probably? That's it? That's what you want? You don't want to achieve something in life. You don't have any life goals. I don't know, you guys. I really think the goal of just of hedonism. I think hedonism is not a good life choice for you. Because if you really think about it, hedonism, maximizing your pleasure is going to hurt everybody. It has to. It hurts yourself. That's for damn sure. But I don't know. I'm just rambling. But, I'm just saying, my opinion does supersede everyone, including you, in regards to alcohol and drugs. And that's zero tolerance. But like I said, you want to do that, just remember my warnings. And then whatever happens to you, that's on you. I do want to touch on one more aspect, and that's really just kind of networking. Networking and being humble. If you're very humble, you're going to get access to all kinds of information that's going to help you, because it may not be something you'd be interested in looking for yourself. For example, when I got my job in mental health, we have to take a medical exam. We have to take a medication exam, learning about different medicines so that we can give medicines to patients. That's what we have to do. And so, just by talking to the nurses and the pharmacists, I was able to get more information. And remember, I failed law in med school, so the last thing I want to do is revisit this stuff. But just the fact that I'm talking to a real person that's much more of an expert in that field than I am, I was able to absorb the information better, understand it better, and pass. I did pass the medication exam, so I can give medicine out to clients. Also, I'm looking at kind of a residential living facility where I would do more hours there, because I'm working 2 jobs. So I have the mental health job right now full time, and then I have fast food right now just so I get free food. But since I passed the medical exam, I'm just going to move those hours from fast food onto the residential so that I'll get paid time and a half. So it's like the same hours, but like way more pay. And another example too is that, you know, in college, right? I don't know why, but like my friend group really didn't like me, or they just couldn't stand me, and they loved to make fun of me when I didn't know something. Now keep in mind, this was in like 2010, so we didn't have the internet. The internet wasn't as evolved as it was now. Like whenever I don't know something, I go on my phone and I learn it like in 5 seconds. You know, we couldn't do that back then when I was in college. So some of the college kids, they knew something that I didn't know, because I grew up in a town of 4,500 people, you know what I mean? So the knowledge was limited, and they just love to insult me and make fun of me for not knowing things, you know? But as you probably know now, I have quite an intricate amount of knowledge in regards to the martial arts. And, you know, because they could not be humble, they missed out on, you know, tons of information about martial arts. You know, if they weren't jackasses, I'd be happy to tell them anything they wanted to know, you know what I mean? But I don't know why. I don't know. Like I said, nobody likes me, so they don't want to be nice to me, and that's fine. But you know, if they weren't like that, you know, they probably would have had good access to the wealth of knowledge that I had in regards to martial arts. And if they were willing to tell me, then, you know, I would have access to the knowledge that they knew. So I know that's going to be really hard for like introverts. Believe me, as an introvert, that's very hard. But I think one thing that helps out is really just having your dopamine levels return to normal. So, you know, all this useless things like excessive, so not too much, but excessive video games and excessive porn, excessive masturbation, all that's going to really mess up your dopamine, and you're just not interested or motivated to learn or do anything. And if you just kind of back off that stuff, junk food is a part of it too, but that's a harder subject, so we'll leave that alone. But if you just allow your dopamine levels to reset, you know, you will become naturally more curious, and you'll want to talk to people. You want to ask them questions. Again, that's going to help with your networking, and with the internet too, which is, again, I didn't have this when I was your age. You can look stuff up on your phone. You can look stuff up on your phone and you can learn things. I imagine studying would be a lot easier, because we couldn't do that when I was your age. You just had to read the book, you know. But now you can get different kinds of people's interpretations and understandings of subjects. So I mean, it's really just a really nice wealth of knowledge. Of course, that can be abused, but as long as you keep it control, then honestly, I think you have a pretty good future ahead of you. All right, that will be the end of the video. I am so impressed if you guys survived my ranting. Oh my goodness. You must have quite the level of discipline to do so. But no, if I missed anything, or you guys have any more questions about that, you know, what it's like going back for bachelor's degree 10 years later. I mean, the only thing that really changes is the wisdom. The wisdom is the only thing that you cannot read in a book. You kind of get it from within. I would say probably your prefrontal cortex is the one that does it, which is, they used to say it fully developed at 25, but they're now saying that it's actually always developing. It can also reverse and regress if you drink alcohol and do drugs. But other than that, your prefrontal cortex is always changing. So, you know, it's supposed to get more mature as you get older. They're also finding out that people can have, you can be like a 50-year-old guy and have like a 20-year-old brain. You could also be like a 20-year-old guy with a 70-year-old brain. So, you know, it's a little complicated, but I'm going to say that's where the wisdom comes from, is the prefrontal cortex. What it's like, if I guessed it correctly, is like, I literally just woke up one day and I said, I don't want to live like this anymore. That's literally what it was. I think I was 28, 29. I woke up one day and I was like, no, I'm not living like this. You know, I'm not living like this every day, 84-hour weeks, nothing to look forward to except porn and masturbation. Like, no, I don't want to live like that. And I don't know. Here we are, YouTube channel, videos later, and I guess a job in my field of study, training every day, improving my diet every day. Who knows? But again, it's up to you guys if you want to go right away or wait until you're a little bit older, with kind of the things that I set into place, talked about. So yeah, if you're gonna wait, you know, don't don't wait to rely on the prefrontal cortex. But when it says you're ready, you're ready. So if you guys have any more questions, please let me know. Other than that, please like, comment, subscribe, and of course, I will see you guys next time. Goodbye now.
You learned martial arts! Martial arts, good!